welcome to Music Marketing. It has been a hot ass minute, maybe like 7 months since we've done our last one. But as you know, the year 2020 is an interesting year indeed. So I wanted to talk about how getting publicity and how promotion has changed since last year, since some of the first videos that I made early in 2019, and just answer some questions live on Twitch that hopefully will help anyone, even the people who are watching this later on YouTube. So first of all, let me get my notes. Oh my God, I have hella text. Who's texting me? Crop it. I would love to crop it. And welcome to my TED Talk, everybody. So, as you may know, as you may have noticed, upon watching an item of news or going outside in the last 4 or 5 months, it's a different world that we're living in. And there's a lot of music publications and just generally people are losing their jobs, and people are also like consuming less of certain media and, you know, going to like a lot of these big sites less, like Billboard and Rolling Stone, and even like more of the LGBT sites like New Now Next, or you know, a lot of these places are either the smaller places, a lot of them are closing down. Also like the 405 is a really popular music blog that just doesn't exist anymore as of like a few weeks ago or a month ago. And then a lot of these bigger places that have money to stay afloat, but they don't have money to pay their contributors, they're letting go of a lot of contributors. So, you know, Billboard Pride, we saw that happen. And now they really just have like one person on the team there who's probably getting swamped by tons of emails. And, you know, also is probably getting forced to, I mean, maybe they're not, but I feel like they're getting forced to probably focus more on the big names. So it's really like a totally different landscape out there. And there was this tweet I saw the other day that I completely agreed with. Like, if you watch my earlier videos, when I talk about promoting your music, one of the biggest things that I recommend as an indie artist to get your foot in the door is something called a premiere. And what that is when you have music that is unreleased, say, you know, a couple weeks before the release date, you start pitching it around to people, or music video. You start pitching it around to people and finding someone, oh, Cass. Oh, wait, Brendan? Wait, I don't know what I saw. Brendan, thank you so much. I don't know why I saw Cass. I swear it said Zabby Blue.
Almost giving birth to
thank you so much for the resub, Brendan. Let me put this on. So a lot of people are getting let go, like I said, and where was I? I don't know. That's the worst part of having ADHD and doing this live. I'm not disappointed in you. Cut it, restart it, vomit on it, never been done before, whatever. Literally, where was I? Oh yes, thank you so much, Ash. You're a pro. I love you. So should I call you Charlie on here? I feel like you told me to call you Ash, even though your name was Charlie. But let me know. I will change immediately. Yes, thank you. Yeah, the people I value in, I mean, I value everyone, but the people who are, I guess I should say, just the most helpful to me are the ones who help me remember my train of thought, because it disappears very, very often. Oh, James Beach Music, thank you so much for the follow. Okay, so welcome in, everybody. I took a quick detour because I got distracted. But yeah, so premieres are as I've talked about before, kind of like how you first get your foot in the door at a lot of these like bigger publications, because some of them won't cover your music unless it's a premiere. But now in this world where music journalism is kind of flipped on its head, and a lot of contributors are getting let go or fired, or whole publications are kind of shuttering, a lot of places are moving away from premieres because they take a lot of time. A lot of times I actually found out that the editors who were doing them weren't getting paid for those stories because it wasn't like a bigger name piece. So there's even like money involved in why, you know, if the publication isn't paying someone, especially at a time like now, they really have to just focus on themselves. So I say, and I've seen this posted, premieres are kind of completely out the window. You don't really focus on those anymore. But that kind of changes how a lot of press has traditionally run in the last like 5, 6, even 7 years. When, you know, you'd maybe get a premiere on a big blog or a big site like Consequence of Sound or something smaller like Pop Matters or whatever. And then you could snowball that into more and more press and more tastemakers who are like, oh, well, that place covered them, I'm going to cover them. That place covered them, I'm going to cover them. Also, I mean, the music has to be good, but it just shows like it was kind of like a fashionable thing. But now that's out the window. So it's like, what are we left with? We're left with things like Submithub. We're left with, you know, still trying to pitch those places, but just once the music is out. or pitching, just like finding smaller blogs to pitch. And that's where some more of these difficulties come in as well. So for example, with Submithub, we'll start there because that's the easiest way to pitch yourself, but it's also one of the least rewarding. Hi Jay, how are you? It's one of the least rewarding, and it can be very demotivating. I'm going to show y'all what Submithub, I'm going to just go a little bit more in depth again into what it looks like, what it is, how it works, just real quick, especially now that I'm also a curator on there, or whatever they're called. I don't know, a blogger, whatever, influencer person thing. I want to show you what I see from my end, so that can help you equip yourself better when you are pitching. But I also want to show you how you need to be conservative and show you my own missteps in promoting. Why do I have a Canadian accent today? Maybe because I watched Canada's Drag Race yesterday. In promoting myself and promoting artists. So let me start off with just showing you what it would look like for me receiving music. So you see the artist's name, you see the song name, and then you see a little blurb from the artist, which is what, if you've used Submithub before, you'll know. But if you haven't, when you're about to hit click on submit a song, it asks you to kind of do like a little tweet length quick pitch to, you know, hopefully entice or give some more interesting information to a person listening. So we'll compare these two. I saved these two submissions so that we could compare. I'm not going to listen to them now though, because then I have to like write feedback on the spot and stuff, and I don't want to do that right now. It'll take time. But you can see that it's called Sky High Media Group Presents. So I guess that's kind of like their collab, but that's basically their artist name, their song name. Like I said, there's the quick pitch, and then there's a submission detail. So we can click on that and see a little bit more about the song and a bio about the group. So one thing I really want to stress here is you don't need to put any of that information then in this quick pitch. You don't need to put it's a hip hop track, because you can see all of the, you can see all of the tags right here. You don't need to put pop, you don't need to put hip hop, you don't need to put your name, you don't need to say I have a new single out called this. That's just wasting real estate. What you need to write is something, second team single, that's not really that interesting. Generating buzz in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that's slightly interesting. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. We'll make sure to show fans the website of any blog we are on. What I usually try to write, now I'll use one of my own as an example. You can see I sent all of my 3 songs off my new EP, Sweet Nothings. Let's stream now and buy it. No, I'm not trying to drag them. I'm just trying to be real. I'm just trying to be real, and sometimes you have to be blunt and harsh. But I can do that with myself too. So I'm not targeting them, believe me. I'm gonna drag the people under them even more, actually. Okay, here we go. Let me see. Wait, where's my little quick pitch? Where's my little quick pitch? You're falling, I'm falling. Is it this one? More detail. Oh yeah, right here. Okay, so this is the quick pitch that I did for myself. So one thing to know, if you're releasing an EP, you do want to mention EP, because you can actually only send one song at a time. You can't send out like a playlist of songs on YouTube or SoundCloud. Cass, you little trickster. You can't send out a playlist of songs. So it has to be one song at a time. So what I did for We're Falling, which was the first one I decided to pitch, I pitched it in Perks simultaneously, but they're very different songs. So I said, new EP out today, where each track corresponds to a stage of grief. This is bargaining. So I feel like that is kind of an interesting thing. Like, oh, this is corresponding to a stage of grief. Like you want to try to put a little snippet of the story of the song in there, because most people won't click to look at more detail. Most people are just listening to the song. Do they like it or not? But it does help to have some kind of little hook in here. So I also said like at 250 unleashes the full power of the song, because the song is pretty slow, but 250 it like really hits this whole thing. So if they maybe feel like, oh, this song is so slow, but they only make it to a minute or a minute and a half, and they're like, this is too slow, it doesn't ever go anywhere. But maybe by me saying at this point it kind of blows up, and then they go check that point and they're like, oh, that like saves the song for me, I love it, I want to cover it. And then I also just said flute performed by Kisos, because I thought that was another unique thing. Most people don't have flute on the track, number 1. Number 2, it's not usually done by the artist who released the track. And I did say we'll share any coverage. I just try, if you're gonna say sharing it, just try to say it in the shortest way possible, instead of like, we'll bring all our fans to your website, because they can't. But just acknowledging that you will share it and making sure you follow through with that just goes to show, because a lot of artists actually don't share the coverage, surprisingly. So again, let's take a look at something that's sent to me, and now we'll kind of look at it together. So we want to see if this group next time, we want to see if their quick pitch is something interesting. They said release date July 17th. We don't need to know that because it says that right here. 94 Submithub approvals as of July 17th. I personally don't care. If anything, that makes them more set up to fail in my head because it's like, okay, well, if everyone is covering this band, how come I haven't heard of them? How come they have 19 followers? I mean, it looks like they've been covered by a few places. Yes. So maybe it's a really good track. I mean, look at all of this. Like, you can't fake that shit. But I'm just, honestly, it makes me a little, if you're going to say something, I would say more like we've been on this blog before, like hopefully a blog someone knows, otherwise just leave it out. But like if you've been on a Spotify playlist, if you've been on Billboard Pride, if you've been on anything that has a little notoriety to it, use it. But otherwise, like currently most popular Submithub weekly group, like all they're talking about is their success, which again, it kind of shows, I guess, that it's probably a good song. Other people are covering it, so maybe I should be interested too, but that's not how my brain works personally. I don't care how popular the song is. If I don't like it, I don't like it. I do like that they put a longer about the song in this section so that you can read about it, but they don't have a bio at all, which is a little annoying. But yeah, so just make sure you fill everything out. I guess we can take a quick listen to one of the songs. I'm really curious about this second one because I dragged them. I'm not going to write the feedback now, though. Sometimes I feel lonely. Great voice. Sounds super clear. Sounds pleasant. We'll see if I like it the whole way through, because I am trying to be pickier and pickier because I want to share my friends too, and I don't always have room to share my friends if I just pick these people. But yeah, it doesn't sound bad, but I would just focus on, I don't know, maybe something else. Yeah, so if you haven't, let me just show really quickly what it looks like submitting a song on here. You want to buy premium credits. I usually buy 100 for $80. There's like a discount. But I don't, oh yes, this is what I wanted to show you actually. I don't put all my eggs in one basket, especially if I'm sending multiple tracks. The only reason I kept sending perks was because it's my like most popular. So I sent it and then I stopped. And then I was like, oh, well, actually, let me just try a few more places that I think might like it. And I stopped. And nobody liked it on Submithub, which is fine. That happens. But just be really careful about how much you're sending your tracks out, because you can lose a lot of money really fast. Like on He Didn't Want Me, look how many places I sent it to. I got 100 people responding and only 2 people approved it, which is really bad. Usually you'd want something more like when I worked with E. Alvin, although I didn't just use Submithub to get him pressed. But like you can see 10%, that's close to 10%. That's really good. So if you sent it to, and you can see I sent it 6 times. So it's kind of like if you send it and you feel like it's getting a good response, send it more. If you send it and you feel like it's not getting a good response, don't use Submithub. Try something else for that single. There's so many other blogs and places to pitch besides Submithub. Yes. Homebite said, what's expected from both sides when premiering a song? What's the best way to premiere a song? So when you are the blogger, here, let me put this back on myself for a little. When you are the blogger, basically you'll set a date, usually 24 hours ahead of the song's official release date. And that will be the only place that anyone can listen to the music for 24 hours until it's officially released. So the artist gives that exclusivity to the blog. They also will give direct access, like, instead of promoting the song early, they'll just promote like, hey, my song is out early on HomoBite, for example. And so go to their site to watch it. So they can only watch it on the HomoBite site. And in return, HomoBite or whatever blog usually does, extra tweet, Facebook post, because not every story gets social media promo when you're getting press and getting publicity, but for premieres it is like a guarantee. Not so much on Instagram, but always on Facebook and Twitter, so make sure you're getting those things. But the thing is also, and I talked about this with premieres, they really don't do that much for the artists anymore, and a lot of artists also can't bring in that many new viewers into like a big place like Billboard Pride, for example, where it's worth it for them to do it. They'll get like less clicks than they would covering most other things, and it can sometimes be a lot to coordinate because the artist, you know, you also have to make sure you have like the embed codes, make sure you have the links right and everything. And yeah, it's just a lot to coordinate in between the blogger already doing all of their main content stream. So honestly, it's been on the way out for a while. Ever since 2015, it's kind of been on the way out. Like Indie Shuffle was one of the first places to say we're not going to do premieres anymore, and it was kind of like shook up the industry. I remember because that's when I had first started press, so I was like indoctrinated, like premieres, and then to hear someone be like, we don't want premieres, because as publicists we always just thought it was like great for everyone, you know, but it's not. So yes, that's a little insight into how premieres work. They can be great, but even with, like, for example, getting a premiere on something big, like when I premiered my music video on Billboard Pride, it's like, yeah, it's great, number one, because I don't know if they would have covered the video otherwise, but it's not like it was a life-changing you know, thing. My career didn't skyrocket. I got like maybe 300 views because of them, a few more fans, and that was that. But the same thing probably happened anytime I was on like Queer Necessities playlist by John Ollie, which now is independent but still gets like a good amount of listeners and is growing every single month. So yeah, don't feel like if you aren't getting covered by Paper, if you aren't getting covered by Billboard Pride or you know, other big publications or Nylon or whoever that you see other of your contemporaries being covered by, that doesn't mean that you are like super far behind or your music sucks or whatever. A lot of time it could be relationships, it could be whatever, but also these things on their own, one by one, are not life-changing. You have to combine it with more press, more presence, and all of these other things. But really quick, I just want to show you one more time, like real quick, how it works. So I do premium credits. I send it to curators, bloggers, playlisters. I do say feedback is quite important for me, but I turn off the email notifications. Otherwise, throughout the day, you'll just get a ton of declines, which can like hurt my heart. But if I turn off notifications, then I can look at it when I'm ready if I care. But always do quite important, because if someone says feedback is important to them, I spend more time writing feedback for them, and I sometimes come across a song where I'm like writing feedback out, and then I realize actually I'm not going to say no. I do like the song, I'm going to say yes. So there's chances where it gives me a chance to change my mind. Pick your genres. You can pick up to 3, and then you really just go through and pick whoever you want to send it to. I usually don't send it to anyone except Spotify playlisters and bloggers, and if I were going to prioritize anyone, I would prioritize bloggers, because say you get on a Spotify playlist, even a good one, and you get 300 streams, it's like, yeah, that's great for the numbers, especially maybe if you don't have anything over 1,000 plays yet, but it's going to make you $1, and you spent $1 to send it to, you know, that playlist anyway. Whereas sending it to a blog helps with your like Google searches. It helps in the future you getting verified on social media. It helps Spotify and things group you with similar artists in the if you know, if someone searches for you on Google to see if you're quote unquote a big deal or like a rising star, but you've only ever been on playlists, like independent playlists, there's not going to be anything there. Versus if you search someone who's been on a lot of blogs, you can be like, oh, this person's actually a bigger deal than I thought, and maybe they would spend more time on you from there. Oh no, I'm just saying I focus on bloggers and playlisters, but blogs are the most important for me. They're what I value the most. Period. So let me continue. We talked about a lot of it, actually. I just have a couple more things to talk about, and then we can see any final questions from people about what I've talked about or anything else that they've been thinking about. So the last couple things I wanted to talk about is, oh, actually, let me share one more thing, because it's been a while. Although I do have this in episode 1, I believe, of my music marketing series. If you don't know where to start on finding blogs, number 1, you can go to Submithub, make a list of those, and then see other like similar blogs. But what I also do is I go here on hypem.com, I go to indexed sites, I pick my genres out, and there's a list of like, you know, tons of blogs that you can potentially send your music to. And the more places you send it to, the more you'll find. Or also if you like go to Ear Coffee and you're like, oh, Marmalade, Speak Acoustic, this sounds exactly like something that I am releasing. Let me see who else they've been covered by. And then I'm like, oh, they've also been covered by this person in the past and this person in the past. So maybe I'll go to those blogs too and find them. Or I could just do like a Google search and be like, where has, we'll use Zach Benson because he's such a sweetie and has a new song out. Where has Zach Benson been covered before? I don't know if I'll be able to find him without using the word music. So let's see. Let's see. Oh, Q review. Amazing. Something new I found. Let's see. What else? What else? What else? A magazine. ZO magazine. Okay, great. Love that. LGBT music chart. Love that. Okay, so I already found like 3 options. If my music sounds like Zach Benson, those are 3 options I could send it to. Oh, Dougie Style. Who's that? Oh, you've seen him on social media. Okay, maybe follow him, talk to him, and say hi to him. Just stuff like that. I didn't want to use myself as an example, but I am a good example. I swear. Let me see. So, Atwood Magazine. Great. Let's look at that. Impose Magazine. Let's look at that. Album Confessions. Let's look at that. So, if you see any artist that has any related music to you, or maybe it's just an indie artist that you feel is on the same level as you, go check out these sites and find their email. They're usually a lot more approachable than some big name place, but also sometimes they have a lot more engaged fan bases because they're smaller and they have like a real community instead of people just reading them because their name is Billboard and they're supposed to be cool, or because it's Pitchfork and you're supposed to read Pitchfork because they're like one of the top things, you know? So do that research. But what I was going to say is if you're pitching big places, you really have to think of a way to make yourself interesting. And I don't mean that in just the sense of how can I describe my music in the most interesting way. I used to hear this advice when I was even smaller, and I'm like, well, I'll just like make my music sound more interesting or whatever. But I really didn't have anything that interesting about myself yet. Like my music hadn't been taking off. I wasn't live streaming. I wasn't doing anything really newsworthy. And you don't have to be, but for these bigger publications, they will take any chance to ignore you. It's really hard to get in them. There's a reason why. They have to be really selective. They're getting hundreds of emails a day of artists that want to be covered by them. So if you feel like you're not interesting enough, it's not a reflection of you personally, but think about, okay, do I have time to do something else that would expand my brand? Like, that's why I started doing music marketing. Well, that's why I started live streaming, number one, or partially, just because I wanted to do something else, kind of expand my reach, but also it's something interesting to talk about in interviews. And I was able to, even when I was just like starting out earlier in streaming, I was able to say things, you know, like people have watched my content for, you know, an average of like, I don't remember, like hundreds of, like maybe a year or something, like in the last, I don't remember. But there's different things you can say, like, oh, you know, an average viewer has watched Kisos' content for over 100 hours in the last month or something, or in the last year. And that stuff is interesting. Or saying now, like, oh, I'm in the top 2% of Twitch streamers, or 1.5%. I don't know, it fluctuates a lot. Like, that stuff is interesting. Starting Quarantine, that's interesting. Music marketing series, that's interesting. Even just like curating your own playlists, that's something. It is a little bit more natural. So just think about what things you do or interesting parts of your story that would make you more intriguing. Like one of my artists, for example, he had like lived in South America for a really long time, and that's where he like wrote this album, and he was like living with a partner, and then they were gonna move back, but because of what's the one, like DOMA, Defense of Marriage Act here in the US, so they couldn't come back as a married couple, so they were like stuck. So that was like an interesting story. Obviously not everyone's gonna have that type of story, not everyone's able to create that type of story, but it's just like a lot of times we think of ourselves as very ordinary, and we're not. Like I was talking to Peter, it's Uptime, Oe. Oh, watch time? Oh, follow age, exclamation follow age. But I was talking to Peter the other day, and we were talking about his new album coming out August 7th, Unwritten Stories, don't forget it. And I was just like, so what can we talk about that is, you know, beyond music? And he was like, oh, well, I've actually like published, you know, South African choral folk songs, and, you know, I've written like music column in the Presbyterian Church's Ecumenical Journal, and I was in this traveling boys choir growing up. It's like all of that stuff is very interesting. So find ways to not just when you're pitching these big places say like, I have new music out, hope you like it. I mean, it depends. Sometimes that is fine. But if you know it's someone who usually is more interested in type of story things, anything that can make you seem more intriguing than someone else, because everyone who would be covered on Huffington Post or Rolling Stone, whatever, they're gonna be good. Their music's gonna be good. They're gonna be an interesting person. So you just have to get yourself into that same mindset and celebrate yourself and make sure that you are representing yourself in the most interesting way possible. But also just don't get down if they don't respond to you, because that's part of the game. I always joke that as a publicist, I get ghosted for a living. Like, I get paid to get ghosted because you get ghosted all the time. So it's just about finding those places who do support you, making sure that you stick with them, send all of your releases to them every time. They might not always cover you, but you can create a relationship. And that's how you start snowballing it. Getting all of these, it's kind of like a pyramid, but not a pyramid scheme, where, because you're starting at the bottom. Well, I don't know. I guess pyramid scheme, you start at the bottom, but you can't climb up. Anyway, excuse me. You get, the smaller blogs, and then as they continue to cover you, you meet more people and you can maybe be more interesting to those middle tier blogs, the higher tier blogs, the top tier blogs. So it's all just a building process, but you never want to forget any of those building blocks underneath. Otherwise, the whole thing can fall down. Okay, what's the last thing? You'll see. We'll see. Not you'll see. That sounds scary. Oh, the last thing I was going to say is there's a lot of sketchy editors out there. And in the LGBTQ community, we've dealt with some of them in the past, like the previous editor at Billboard Pride. So I would just say, don't feel like you have to like cozy up or get buddy to any specific editors or be friends with them. If you like the person, if you think they seem interesting, then yes, by all means, I really encourage following them, engaging with their content, supporting them, shouting them out, just like you would anyone else, not making it into a thing of like you're trying to get something from them, but support someone who you enjoy. And in turn, they'll probably feel that genuineness and support you back. I have tried to like connect with people who I feel I'm supposed to connect to, and it just doesn't work. And I feel fake and tired doing it. Even if I'm not being fake, I'm like trying to find something that I can genuinely connect with, it still can feel fake. And that happened with an editor recently who I had like been trying to get close to, and then I found out that they're like racist behind doors and stuff. And I was like, okay, you know what? I need to just feel these vibes and not keep trying to get this person's attention, because number one, they probably don't want to cover me anyway because they're racist. But number two, it's just like there's a lot of these gatekeepers, and I won't say all of them because there are some truly amazing people out there. Like, I can't say the praises of Channy Nicholas enough, who runs the Cosmic Playlists on Spotify. And other people. I mean, there's so many amazing people out there. John Ali is amazing. Even though he's not a Billboard Pride, like, he's still such an amazing blogger and stuff. And hello, Flanagan, Alex. We are talking about music marketing today. Welcome in. We're almost done. Then we're going to answer some questions and play some music of our own. But yeah, there's a lot of people that just like, they might not like you for whatever reason. They might not care about your music for whatever reason. They might not want to engage back with you for whatever reason. And don't feel like you have to force that. And don't feel like just because some editor doesn't like you that you can't be successful. Like, there's a lot of, I've been covered by some great places, but I've also been routinely ignored by a lot of big places. I won't say ignored, but I haven't been covered by them. And I've sent them, good music and seen other people on my level get coverage by them multiple times. So it's one of those things of like, that will never make or break your career. It's just about doing what you're doing. Like I said, building those building blocks, trying to think of the more interesting ways that you can present yourself, thinking of more interesting things to do with yourself. Something Nick White is doing that I hope I'm allowed to expose. Or I'll use another example so I don't expose his, because I'm really excited for what he's doing. Because we were talking about just like ideas, again, to make you more interesting. And not everything has to be super costly, although, sometimes these are things like you might have to spend money on. But I remember one of my friends covering, I think it was Biba Doobie, like record a while back. And she had like a little comic book or like graphic novel that went along with the release. So my friend covered her. She's already like a bigger artist too, obviously, but that's just like an example of like some maybe like little thing that you could do that's a little different. to tie into your release that might be more interesting or more out of the box or whatever. Like with Sweet Nothings, what I never got around to doing, but I really wanted to do was to make like a candle that was supposed to like smell like a person that you love and like have that as merch, which maybe I'll still do, but I haven't had time to do it. And like the EP promo cycle is, I don't want to promote it that much more. But you know, like little things that are different. It doesn't have to be merch. It doesn't have to be physical, but just, you know, start thinking about those things, you know? Oh, I love Amy. Yeah, she might be lurking here. I don't know if she's still lurking here, but yeah, she brought Cass's stream over, Zaby Blue. I don't know if you know her too, but yeah. But y'all, that's basically it. I just wanted to say, you know, it is harder out here. You're not imagining it. It's harder to get press right now. Submithub is definitely pickier, number 2. And there's a lot more blogs on there, but there's a lot more musicians submitting music. Also, press is probably more, you know, competitive because people aren't doing as many live shows or other things to promote themselves. So really like submitting your music is one of the only things you can do unless you're like doing online shows and stuff. But, you know, there's a lot of change happening right now. So don't be too hard on yourself. Just research, look up the artists that you like and see what they're doing. And by that, I mean smaller artists. Find smaller artists in the first place if you haven't yet, which I feel like everyone watching this probably has, at least on Twitch. And yeah, just find out ways to make yourself more interesting and don't get stuck on stinky editors. Just do your own thing. There's so many good blogs out there. Don't feel like you have to get on the biggest places right away. Sometimes the smaller places are the best places. Period. Okay, y'all. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, maybe that's just points, Owie. How long in total you've watched? Points is like the total hours. But yes, does anyone have any questions about anything that I said or anything unrelated, but just about music, promo, shows, any tips that they've been looking for, anything they've been struggling with, anything that they feel like maybe they've been doing well, but it hasn't been working? Maybe I can just let you know that you probably are doing it fine and just need to continue or whatever it is. Also, I won't say no opportunity is too small because at a certain point you have to guard your time and not take every opportunity, but take every opportunity that you can in which it doesn't sacrifice your, you know, your day-to-day. Like sometimes you need to push yourself to make some time to do like that extra interview or a podcast or, you know, do the pitching, obviously. But don't just do what you can in a day because there's so much going on. Especially now, there's so much stress. So just do what you can, do what you feel comfortable with, and don't feel bad for skipping pitching a certain place because you didn't have time or a certain thing because you didn't have time. Because when it comes down to it, there's always going to be more you can do. So you can't focus on that. Otherwise, you will die. A watch time command? I don't think there was on my channel. I don't think I ever had one. There's uptime and there's points. And that's all I know. Hi Passion, how are you? Any questions? That'd be kind of weird question. Don't worry if you don't want to answer. I won't force you to. Hello, has your mental health gotten like in depression and stuff? I don't know. It kind of depends. I do want to keep this more to music, so don't feel like I'm ignoring the question. But I mean, in quarantine and stuff, like it gets rough. I've had multiple breakdowns. I am gonna start going to therapy again. It's a lot to handle. Trying to make money, trying to promote yourself, trying to make money with the things that you're promoting, trying to just do everything. So again, that's why I like really stress in the middle of all of this like pitching and promotion talk, like being kind to yourself and taking the time to just rest and don't go crazy. Like with this EP, I didn't promote it nearly as much as I have with anything else in the past because I just didn't have time. I was burnt out and I just wanted to kind of let it do its thing and whatever happens, which usually is not a good way to get listeners, but I didn't care about getting listeners. I'm really fortunate that I have a community now who would listen without me having to feel like I have to go like run around and do all this crazy stuff to get people to listen. So, but yeah, just take the steps you can. Every song that you release is not going to be your last song. There's always going to be more music. So it doesn't matter if you feel like you could have done more. You can always do more next time. There is always a next time. It doesn't matter if you get ignored on one song. You might get covered by them the next time. So that's what I always focus on. If someone rejects me, I'm like, you know what? That's okay. I really did want to be with there. I am disappointed. I wanted to be on that publication, but I will have more music and I will always keep growing and it will get better and better. And I will get that coverage eventually. How do you feel about aligning with charities that you care about or are significant to the song's or project message as part of your promotional campaign? Oh, what happened, Passion? When was that? But so let me get back to the question. Sorry, I got distracted. Are significant to the song's message or project message as part of your promotional campaign? I think teaming up with a charity is great. I think just making sure that the way you message it comes off as genuine and supporting the song. I mean, the opposite. Supporting the charity and using the song as kind of a vehicle for that. When I was doing my pre-save campaign for Sweet Nothings, I wanted to think of a way to give more to charity as an incentive for people, but also an incentive for people to like pre-save my EP. And I didn't want it to come off as me using like, what's the word? A ransom or something. Like I didn't want to be like, ooh, if you don't pre-save this, I'm not going to donate to Glitz, because that's not how I felt inside, you know? Like I wanted to donate money to Glitz for the pre-saves, and I wanted to figure out a way to do it where it wasn't like, I'm only going to do it if you pre-save. So that's why I was like, I just tried to make it more like an exciting thing of like, okay, I'm going to donate money to Glitz up to $100. Each pre-save of that is 50 cents. So the more we get, the more we get. And that was a way for me to promote the charity, promote myself, and get new followers and stuff, but also make it feel like people are feeling like they're doing something good and it feels shareable. They can share to someone else who might not have money to donate, you know, and feel like they're able to contribute in a way. It's kind of like if you saw the people, I was a little inspired, just a little inspired by the woman who did that video where she was sending all of the ad revenue to like Black Lives Matter charities on like a really long YouTube video. So yeah, that was probably more specific than you were asking, Corey. But I think lining up with a charity is great. I love especially doing it on like release days or, you know, whatever you can do. Because again, if you both have the same mission, there's nothing wrong with it. Just make sure that, you know, in every message that you send, it comes across very clear that you are there to serve the charity. And of course, your music ties into that. But it comes from like a humility mindset always. Toby said, the reason I asked is because my music is about my depression and how it affects me. The song I'm working on now, finished the last one I told you about Thursday, yes, is called A Bit Too Real, where I talk about really, really scary stuff, suicide and neglect and stuff. Oh, no, you don't have to apologize, Toby. I think that's really, really important stuff to talk about in music. One of my first songs is, my second song is De-Atomize. And although I never, I guess, contemplated suicide directly, it was about self-harm. It was about feeling like I wouldn't mind if I died and kind of confronting those feelings so that I could get through it and then come out the other end. I think that's really important to do with music. And you don't always have to release those types of songs too. It's up to you. Sometimes it's nice to make something really personal, keep it, get it out of your system, or maybe then release a different version later, you know, whatever you feel most comfortable with, because you don't need to always be bearing your whole soul to everybody, but if you want to, you can. How can music pages cover more artists without it being less effective? That's a good question. Example, a well-curated playlist of 30 artists versus a playlist of 100. I think the thing is, it's kind of like that balance, like you're saying. Like, I try to do that too with my own playlist. Like I used to have like 10 or 11 artists or something on sequence, and then I like lowered it to 8, and then I like brought it back up to 9 because I wanted it to feel like a little more exclusive. I think the big thing is just having like a set roundup or something. So if you're a blogger or writer, journalist, whatever you call yourself, I think it's good to have those kind of like standalone pieces where you can dive more into specific artists, but then maybe like a set roundup that a lot of people do, and some playlists too. So, doing like Music Monday where you highlight like 5-6 new tracks, or like New Music Friday releases 6 new tracks or whatever from that week, and then a playlist of maybe some even more artists, including those artists, and doing those types of things. Then maybe like bigger roundups, just as you feel like them, that are a little separate, like, oh, the 10 artists of our 10 fave artists of last month, there are 10 fave this. So that way you're kind of mixing in the more specific content with some more roundup style content, and being consistent with it, I think, is the big thing. Because skipping a week, then you skipped out on 10 artists that you could have covered. So, but I would also say just do whatever you feel like you can handle. So don't keep yourself going at this crazy level if you can't sustain it. Just do what you can do. Yeah, and Dougie does stuff like that, where he'll do like the little dive into somebody, but then he'll do like, I don't know, more playlists of whatever. You could look at Queer Necessities like that too, I mean, it's like a monthly playlist where there's a lot of artists covered. And then John also, even though it's still like based mostly on Instagram, and his own blog, but on Instagram where more people see it, he'll take like every day he'll kind of like spotlight a different artist that he put on there as well. So I think it's just a mix of those things, and making sure that it's not all of one thing or the other. It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to be able to cover all the artists that you love. That's just how it is. Like, it makes me sad too. I'm like so late on so many releases because I'm like, oh, I couldn't fit them in. Let me try to fit them in next week. And it just doesn't work. Yes. And Toby, you said, these are 2 lines from my next song. I see an exit door on every single thing. The rope, the knife, it's tight from my veins, and I don't like sewing. It's gonna be tame compared to other stuff I'm gonna write. Yeah, Toby, I mean, whatever you feel like helps you is important, because that's also tying again into like topics, is like mental health is always something that people need to hear more about, and hear more about people's experiences. And, it's something very relatable to everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out, Peter. I hope you had a good time. If you have any questions at any point, obviously let me know. Homobite said, I tried getting creative and promoting a way for people to easily play my playlist by encouraging those with a Google Home to say, hey, Google Play Homobites out in February on Spotify. It's hard to grow playlists. It is really hard to grow playlists, because most people who follow it are artists who are trying to be nice, myself included. Although, actually, Homobite, I really do listen through yours. Like, I found a lot of people through Momentum. I haven't listened through the Q one yet, but I love Momentum. A lot of people who follow Spotify playlists are artists who have been featured who just want to be nice but will never look at it again. And that's basically it. So, I've been growing my playlist for probably about 3 years, and it has 200 followers. So that means I get a follow every 5 days, which actually feels pretty good, because I have weeks where I get like, a month where I like will go -1 follower, and then for some reason the next week I'll gain like 4, and it's weird. But it's just about, again, consistency. I definitely noticed that putting playlists with playlists that are more themed explicitly do much better, but that doesn't mean that they are better. Like, Quarantine has grown so fast, I think, because obviously number 1 is tied into a show, but number 2, it's like all LGBT artists. So anyone who's looking for more LGBT artists to discover, they go there. Versus Sequence, it has more followers, and it has a little bit more, the people who listen are a little more dedicated, but it doesn't really get that many more listeners, even though it's almost twice as big. And it grows a lot slower. Quarantine grew to 120 something in like 4 months, versus it took me 3 years to get the other one to 200. So it's a lot of just being consistent, pushing it out there, reminding people of it. I think changing up the cover art every like week or month or something is good, which I never do for Sequence, but I probably should do that. And yeah, themed playlists are really good, so that you can build like that super fan base, because Sequence is kind of all over the place. So some weeks you know, someone might listen and be like, oh, I don't really like anything on here this week. I don't want to listen. And even I feel that way. Not that I don't like anything, but some weeks are just, I'm more interested in the music than others. Like, I always pick songs that I really like, but sometimes it just fits together in a different way. And yeah, Tina said, I try to give a listen to the ones where I think I might like the music. Yeah, and that's totally fair. We can't expect everyone to listen. If you're getting even 10% of the followers listening, that's really good. Sequence is probably up about a little over 5%, like a little bit over, 5%. And Quarantine is closer to 10% because they have about the same amount. But Sequence gets more streams per artist by a good amount. It gets maybe like, each song gets played like 4-ish times, but on Quarantine is maybe like 1 or 2. So yeah, no, I feel that, Tina. That's very fair. It's very fair. That's very, very, very fair. Yeah, playlists are really hard. They're really hard, but they can also be more rewarding than, you know, you can do a really long post sometimes and feel ignored. I noticed Momentum grew to 23 followers overnight, while my out-in playlist took a year to get to the same number. Yeah, it also just depends. Like, Quarantine was blowing up. I also remember I shared it under when Channing Nicholas was looking for more LGBT artists to cover in for Pride Month. I shared her Quarantine, and I was like, I know it's a lot of artists, but they're all LGBT, they're all amazing, they're all like lesser known. And when I posted under her, I think I got like 10 or 15 followers just that day alone because people were also looking for that kind of thing. Yes, feel free to keep asking me questions, but I think I'm going to end the formal video there for now. I don't know when I'll be doing another music marketing stream, but if you ever have any questions or want to suggest a topic, please let me know. I would love to do more. I just don't know what to talk about because I've already talked about so much. So I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you soon, and I love you. Stream my new music. Bye.